Hey guys, Robbie here from CrossFit South Bend. Today we're going to try to answer the following question. Should I take a supplement? And this is going to be part one of a multi-part series. In future videos, I'll talk about which select few vitamins and minerals I think it's worth it for pretty much everyone to take, even if you have a perfect diet. It's a very small list. I'll talk about which very common supplements people take, things like multivitamins and whey protein and super high dose fish oil, that I think probably aren't worth taking. And later on I'll talk about maybe some specific supplement protocols that obviously you need to talk about with your healthcare professional doctor before implementing, but some specific supplement protocols to deal with things like blood pressure or blood sugar, or digestion or thyroid health. Okay, so today we're going to try to talk about a few questions that are going to be very helpful in helping you answer this question for yourself about whether you should take a supplement. The first two questions we're going to try to answer are perhaps the most important to, and not just for answering the supplement question, but for answering any health and fitness question. These are the questions: who are you and what are you trying to do? These, I cannot overstate the importance of these questions. You know, people all the time, they try to ask me, well, whey protein, is it good or bad? High dose fish oil, is it good or bad? There is no answer to that question without a context. I cannot properly answer that question without someone telling me who they are and what they're trying to do, what their goals are. So are you someone who's a healthy weight, who's athletic? Are you someone who's overweight? Are you someone who's diabetic? Are you someone with a thyroid issue or an autoimmune issue or a digestive disorder? All of these things are going to make a difference for supplementation. So, take an example, super high dose fish oil. In general, I'm really not a big fan of super high dose fish oil as a long-term supplement. I think in the short term, for people who are incredibly inflamed and have a very high omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, which should actually be kind of balanced, high dose omega-3 supplementation for a very short period, we're talking like a couple weeks to a month, can be useful. But in general, long term, I would just much rather someone eat fish because it's got a lot of other things in it that are going to be much more beneficial for you besides just the omega-3 fats. It depends on the person. If someone's, severely diabetic and inflamed and the omega-3s are going to go a decent amount of the way to kind of pushing them in the right direction to get that inflammation under control temporarily, then I think it can be okay. But, if someone's just saying, well, I don't really have that great a diet, and I want to see if I can mitigate the fact that I don't have a great diet with some, omega-3 supplements, then I would just say it's really not a good idea. So answering this question, should I take a supplement, always comes back to who are you and what are you trying to do? What goals do you have in mind? And for any particular goal, the protocol is going to be different. So there is no such thing as saying categorically, fish oil is either good or bad. There is no such thing as whey protein is either good or bad. It's the same thing we've talked about with carbs in the past. Carbs are neither good nor bad. Insulin is neither good nor bad. Cholesterol is neither good nor bad. It depends on the context, the situation, what amounts we're talking about, all these different things. So you have to keep the context in mind. That's number one. Question number two, ask yourself with any supplement you're thinking about taking, is this something that you could get from food, from real whole food? If the answer is yes, then ideally go for real whole food instead. That's really going to be the best case scenario. Now, there can be exceptions here. Go back to the omega-3 case that I just mentioned. Say someone's allergic to fish, or they just hate fish, and the only way they're going to get omega-3s, they're very, very few, even in grass-fed beef, supplemented with flaxseed oil, which actually contains alpha-linoleic acid, which doesn't convert very well to EPA and DHA, which are the two main omega-3s that we need in our body. That's not going to do the trick either. So assume someone's allergic to fish or they just won't eat it, but otherwise they eat a real whole food diet. Okay, well then maybe in that case, omega-3 supplementation kind of at a low dose, not these super mega doses that people take these days, might be appropriate. But in general, I would say try to get it from real whole food. That's going to be your best bet. Why? Your body understands the language of food. Your body understands the language of food. It understands much less the language of isolated supplements. It's not to say that those things can't work, but it's to say There are all sorts of cofactors and enzymes and all these different things that science hasn't even begun to figure out about the effects of these different things in food that help us absorb other things. So just for an example, with fish, the fat in fish helps us absorb vitamin D because vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin. So when you take these things in isolation, it's not always the case that you're absorbing them as well as you would be if you're eating them from real whole food. And just in general, real whole food is tasty. It's something we're meant to eat. We don't need to spend extra money on supplements. So you want to try to get it from real whole food instead. That is the number one principle you should try to abide by. Get your nutrients from food, real whole food. Not fortified food, not, the white bread that says that it's fortified with, iron and magnesium and calcium and all this ridiculous nonsense. Get it from real whole food, not kind of extra fortified food, just, the way in which real whole food is actually infused with these vitamins or minerals, not some nutrient poor food like cereal or white bread that's been, reinfused with these synthetic vitamins and minerals. Okay, what if you can't get certain vitamins and minerals or something else from real whole food? Then it might be worth supplementing. So take vitamin D, for example. Vitamin D you can get from egg yolks. You can get from wild-caught fish. It says it on the package of mushrooms, but really we're talking about really, really, really small quantities. Vitamin D. So vitamin D is really hard to get in sufficient quantities from food. Most of the time we need to get it from sunlight, and sunlight converting, from cholesterol in our skin into vitamin D. So in that case, depending on where you live and what your skin pigmentation is like, it may be worth supplementing with something like sublingual vitamin D. That may be worth doing because it's very, very difficult to get from food, even the best diet. Take something like magnesium. Magnesium we're chronically deficient in these days because we drink filtered water most of the time. We don't drink mineral water, and a lot of our soil, which would normally infuse the produce that we eat with magnesium, has been depleted of magnesium. So magnesium could be something that's worth supplementing with. And in general, I think vitamin D and magnesium are two of the ones that might be worth supplementing with for pretty much anyone who is eating a real whole food diet. And like I said, I'll do a future video on exact amounts and types and all those different things. But those are just a couple of examples of where it might be worth supplementing. How long are you planning to supplement with whatever you're planning to supplement with? Are we talking long term? You should be very wary. You should be very wary about anything that, I would say for the most part, supplements are guilty until proven innocent. There is so much crap out there, so much crap. I would say 90 to 95% of the stuff you see in the supplement store is just not worth it. Really not, unless you have a specific health condition. If you're not eating real whole food to begin with, you're just wasting money, essentially. So, someone says, oh, you need to take this for the rest of your life. Well, there could be certain instances where that's true. Again, who are you and what are you trying to do? Let's take someone who has had their gallbladder removed. Well, if you have your gallbladder removed, you can eat the best diet in the world, but you're not producing sufficient bile, or your bile is not getting where it needs to in sufficient quantities, and that makes it very hard to digest fats. In that case, it might be worth supplementing with something called ox bile. This is just bile from cows that would help you digest and emulsify fats that you're consuming in your body. That's for someone who's missing a gallbladder. For a normal, healthy, functioning human being, there are very few things that I would say are worth supplementing with long term. Vitamin D and magnesium, those two that I mentioned before, that are hard to get from food, those might be a couple that meet that set of criteria that I was just talking about. But otherwise, it's very, very few and far between. Talk about short term. Now, supplementation short term, I think, can be helpful. We've talked about symptom control before. In general, I don't think symptom control as the only means of fixing something long term is a very good idea. So that's why I said, when you're looking at doing something long term, ask yourself why. If you're saying, well, I have heartburn all the time, so I'm going to take this supplement to fix that, or I've got achy joints, so I'm going to take a supplement to fix that. That's just symptom control. You're not getting to the underlying cause, and you're going to have to keep paying money to buy these supplements when you could fix the root cause and just be done with the issue. So That being said, in the short term, if these symptoms are really bothering you, there's nothing wrong with fixing symptoms in the short term. What we like to call intelligent allopathy. That just means, kind of in a smart fashion, using natural remedies to alleviate symptoms, but it has to be done in the context of looking for the underlying cause. So it's okay to fix symptoms short term. If someone's gassy and bloated and has a hard time going out to like restaurants and family events and stuff like that, yeah, you want to get them some symptom relief immediately. You want to try to do what you can, but unless you figure out what the underlying cause is, you're just going to be wasting money long term. So we want to figure out, is this just a short term fix, which again can be okay as long as you're looking for the cause, but you don't want it to be something where you do it long term. People pop proton pump inhibitors, these acid suppressing drugs. You guys all know the ones I'm talking about in the pharmacy, like it's nothing. And we'll do a whole video on this in the future about how that's actually making the problem worse, because heartburn is actually a problem of too little stomach acid, not too much. But either way you slice it, that's just symptom control. Even if it weren't making the problem worse, which it is, it's just symptom control. It's not fixing the underlying issue. So you want to make sure you're fixing the underlying issue. Okay. Ask yourself the following another following question. So what purpose is the supplement serving? What is it? What are you trying to use it for? In general, I think there are three different categories of ways that a supplement could be helping that can be legitimate. So substitution. So just like we talked about before, someone has their gallbladder removed, yeah, they're going to need to supplement with oxbol, maybe some digestive enzymes. If someone has been taking proton pump inhibitors, which are these acid suppressing drugs, for the vast majority of their life, they may need to take hydrochloric acid, which is stomach acid, betaine HCl, to properly digest and break down their food. Stomach acid is good for you. It's there for a reason. It is there to help you digest food and to sterilize your food. If you don't have sufficient stomach acid, that can lead to all sorts of bacteria and parasites and malabsorption and all sorts of bad things. So you want to make sure that you have enough stomach acid. And if you take proton pump inhibitors for a long time, you may need to substitute for your decreased production with supplemental HCl. Stimulation. What if you have a congested liver? This doesn't necessarily mean that you have cirrhosis or that your liver enzymes are elevated on a standard medical test, but it could be the case that your liver is still congested. It's not detoxifying things properly because you've been exposed to a lot of toxins and you're not eating the nutrients necessary to support liver function. Well, in that case, it might be necessary to get something to support liver stimulation, something like glutathione, for example, a natural antioxidant in your body, or any one of a number of things. B vitamins are very important here. Or support. Sometimes short term, it may be necessary to support certain organs that have kind of come under fire from the external world, so to say. So, if you are just having a tough time getting enough energy in the morning, and you've done a salivary cortisol test and your cortisol is just in the tank in the morning, noon, afternoon, and night, then temporarily it may be worth taking something like licorice root to extend the half-life of cortisol, and that might temporarily give you more energy. Again, I need to emphasize that's just symptom control, and you need to do that in the context of fixing causes, and I would never recommend to anyone doing something like that without working with a practitioner, especially with when it comes to hormones like cortisol, DHEA, sex hormones, and whatnot. This idea that, oh, my testosterone's low, so I'm just going to go to the store and buy some horny goat weed or something like that to up my testosterone is just a completely flawed approach. You need to work with someone who knows what they're doing here, because these things can have some nasty side effects. You want to make sure that you have someone who knows what they're doing. But again, for temporary support, that can be useful. So you might be asking yourself at the end of all this, should I take a supplement? Well, hopefully now you've got the tools to answer this question for yourself. Like I said, in the future, I'm going to do a few more videos to try to answer this question more determinately for you, but hopefully now you've got a sense of how to try to answer this question for yourself. What's the purpose of the supplement? Are you doing it long-term or short-term? Could you get it from real whole food? Who are you and what are you trying to do? All these questions make a tremendous difference in figuring out whether you should take a supplement or not. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Robbie here from CrossFit South Bend, signing off, and we'll see you guys next time.